Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the urgent ideas of political scientist Asma Mhalla. She's got this incredible argument that we're living through a massive civilizational shift, where power isn't about governing anymore, it's about programming.
So let's just start with this bombshell of a quote from Asma Mhalla. She's basically saying that all that sci-fi stuff we read about, the megacorps, the total tech control, that's not some far-off future. It's here, right now. It's the world we're actually living in.
So here's the core of her argument. Mhalla says this isn't just another democratic crisis. We're way past that. What we're seeing, according to her, is a total change in how power even works. It's shifting from, visible laws and rules to invisible lines of code.
And she's got a name for this new system: techno-totalitarianism. Now, don't think of the old-school totalitarian regimes from the 20th century. This is different. It's more like a fluid, all-encompassing software of control. It doesn't need to use force to overthrow democracy. Instead, it just rewrites it from the inside out, quietly getting into our heads.
Okay, so the big question is, who's running this thing? Well, Mhalla says it's not just one person or one government. She argues it's this brand new hybrid power. And she calls it the Leviathan.
So this Leviathan, think of it like a two-headed monster. It's the strategic, sometimes kind of messy alliance between big state, political power, and big tech. And here's the thing, they don't even need to agree on politics. They just work together, ruling through the sheer power of our data and the algorithms that run on it.
And this two-headed creature, it's got a pretty clear division of labor. So you've got one head, the political one, that puts on the show. It's all about spectacle, noise, outrage, anything to keep our attention saturated. Meanwhile, the other head, the tech one, is quietly building the actual systems of control in the background. And Mhalla gives a pretty powerful example of this: the alliance we've seen between figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It's a perfect illustration of this dynamic in action.
So that brings us to the actual players. Who are the architects of this cognitive empire, as Mhalla calls it? Because it's a lot more than just your favorite social media app. It's this whole multi-layered infrastructure of control.
Right, so it's not just one group pulling the strings. At the top layer, you've got the Magnificent Seven. Think Google, Amazon, Microsoft. They build the stuff we use every day. Then you go a layer deeper to the intelligence layer. That's where you find a company like Palantir, crunching data for governments and state security. And now, there's a whole new layer, the cognitive one. This is where you find OpenAI and Anthropic, the companies building the AI that is literally starting to reshape how we think.
Yeah, let's take a closer look at a company like Palantir, because it's a perfect example. It sits right at that critical crossroads between private technology and state power. They're the ones providing the tools for governments to analyze and control huge flows of information. We're talking everything from military intelligence all the way to sensitive healthcare data for entire countries, like the work they've done with England's NHS.
And this whole thing isn't just happening in the West. Mhalla actually sees this as a global competition. It's like a new Cold War, but this time it's between two competing models of this techno-totalitarianism.
So on one side, you've got the US model, which is this hybrid, often pretty tense, alliance between the state and private tech companies. And on the other side, you have China's model, where the fusion of tech and the state is, well, way more seamless and integrated. But here's the key point from Mhalla. Even though their structures look different, they're both in a race for supremacy. And they're using the exact same levers of power to get there: imperialism, authoritarian control, and massive techno-industrial might tied to the military.
So what does this all boil down to? The huge geopolitical fight of our time. It's not for land anymore, it's not for oil, it's a war for our minds. The new battlefield, the new territory to conquer, is human consciousness itself. It's a battle for our attention, for our perceptions, for our very ability to think clearly.
Okay, so after hearing all that, it's easy to feel a little overwhelmed, right? But here's the thing. Mhalla doesn't just leave us there in despair. She actually offers a really clear, practical guide for how to resist, a kind of manual for cognitive survival. And that resistance, it starts with recognizing one simple thing. In a world that is actively trying to program you, the simple act of thinking for yourself is no longer just a given. It's become a political act. It's a subversive act of, as she puts it, inner sovereignty. And it's something you have to actively fight for. So how do we do that? Well, her core strategies aren't just about, logging off forever. They're about tangible, real-world actions we can all take. First, reclaim the physical world, what she calls the carnal. That means getting back to face-to-face meetings using paper and pencil. Second,
practice what she calls tiny sabotage, small acts that create a little bit of friction in the system. Third, and this is a big one, we have to disconnect intentionally, just to give ourselves space for critical thought. And finally, and maybe most importantly, we have to rebuild real collective spaces, new agoras, where we can have genuine, unfiltered debates.
Ultimately, what Mhalla is calling for is for all of us to repoliticize technology. We have to stop thinking of it as this neutral, inevitable thing that just happens. We need to see it for what it is, the central political issue of our time, and it needs to be put right at the heart of our democratic debates.
So, all this leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. In a world that's being programmed, where the invisible software of control is getting more and more sophisticated, is the simple, quiet, and frankly difficult act of just thinking for yourself the last real act of rebellion?
Getting to the heart of the matter isn't always easy, but here we always look for the essence. Thank you for your time and your curiosity. Subscribe for more answers, and as always, thanks for watching.